Hey everyone, I can't talk today. It's Thursday and my brain is already in weekend mode. Welcome back to another day of Lunch Break Live with me, Ivana. And today I am joined by a financial consultant. Now, I know a lot of y'all got some money questions. Y'all have been telling us you needed some help, you needed some advice. We asked for some of your questions on Facebook and on Twitter, and y'all gave me some really great questions here for Isaac. So, Isaac, thank you so much for joining us today and helping us figure out how to navigate this whole economic situation happening.
Fantastic. Yeah. Happy Thursday to you. As you know, there's a ton of uncertainty going on. So it's always helpful to be able to help people navigate in the midst of, a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. And so I'm excited to hear what the questions are.
Well, let's just get into it. So, first things first, I've had a lot of people ask this in different ways, but and also if y'all see me looking down, I'm reading your questions below. But one thing a lot of people are wondering is what is the most responsible thing to do with that money you get from your stimulus check?
That is a really good question. And the word I'm gonna put an emphasis on is being responsible, right? And so I think before we can prioritize what to do with the money, we first want to get a better understanding of what are the needs of the day, right? And so looking at your situation and really taking an honest assessment of how COVID-19 has impacted you, because we have one set of income in which the biggest adjustment may be babies crying in the background, trying to figure out how to download Zoom to do virtual meetings. Like if that's been your biggest adjustment, it seems to me that your income has not been impacted, right? That means you're still getting paid in some form of fashion. So this may be new income for you. So let's be proactive on what we can do to probably increase your emergency fund. Probably looking at different really goals within the next 3 to 6 months, 3 to 5 years, in which you can start setting aside money for if you want to travel at some point, or at least lock down some debt, right? And so if there's any existing liabilities, credit cards that you can start being more offensive with, I think that's the posture you should take. Now we have another group of individuals in which they may have lost their income either this week, last week, due to the business that they work for being shut down. Now that's a little bit different, right? Because they are in a situation where they may have had some grace on utilities based off where they are. We'll speak specifically for Birmingham. I know AT&T announced March 14th that they will give 60 days. So they won't cut your Wi-Fi or your cell phone service off. So there's different utilities and bills that we will have to address at some point. So whenever you do receive your stimulus, let's make sure we account for that. And so even though you may have gotten a deferment on when you can pay that particular expense, that doesn't mean that that bill was eliminated, right? And so make sure you set aside a good amount of money for that as you make decisions. And then there's just the bare necessities, right? Food, water, and really shelter. And so hopefully there's been some type of communication with either your landlord, if you're renting, or even the mortgage company who's holding the note, to see if there's been any adjustments, any grace that you can apply towards it. So majority of the priorities are going to be really based off the needs of the day. If you have not been impacted with your income, and this is be another check for you, let's look at ways in which we can eliminate debt a bit quicker than what we expected. But then as well, ways we can be offensive if we need to build an additional emergency fund. That's a great question.
What about if you have you mentioned mortgage companies. What if you have a private mortgage? Is it appropriate to reach out to the person who holds that mortgage and say, hey, with all of this going on, I need deferment, or I need some time? What is the best way to handle that?
I think if you've been impacted, you should definitely be proactive and have that conversation, because the quicker they know your situation, the quicker they'll be able to make adjustments themselves. So let's say that private entity, they may have 30% of, we'll say, of their residents that's been impacted, but if only 10% of them communicates that to them, they may only make adjustments for that 10%. So I would at least be proactive and let them know that your income has decreased due to COVID-19. And if we can work out a temporary plan that allows you to be able to apply money towards the true priorities, right? Because you still got to be able to, feed yourself and clothe yourself and ensure that you have everything to operate.
That's a good point. Nobody knows you're struggling unless you tell them.
That's right.
Another question here: is it better to save for retirement or pay down your student debt?
That's a good question. That's a really good question. The first thing you want to look at is the time frame, right? And so this sounds like this may be someone that's a bit younger, maybe in their 20s or in their 30s. We'll just say early 40s as well. Um, I don't think it's a this or that situation. I would look at see if you could do both, right? How can we create a situation where we can start saving money for the future, but also expedite the time frame in which you can knock down those student loans. And so I wouldn't necessarily look at it as essentially being binary. I would more so say, all right, how can I accomplish these objectives without sacrificing in totality the ability to be able to accumulate dollars down the road.
Yeah, so kind of, try to pick maybe not necessarily the best of both worlds, but maybe the majority of this world and a little bit in the other world.
That's right.
Get
That's
everybody
right. And of course,
well-rounded.
that's right. And going back to that analysis is really going to give you confidence in whatever decision you make. And so you want to make sure before you look at, all right, do I want to save for long term or do I want to eliminate my student loans? Let me look at all the other factors around me, right? And so even if this is in the midst of COVID-19, if your income has been impacted, I would first prioritize the needs of the day for your finances and then start looking at some more long term we'll say vehicles and objectives that can get you there.
So going along with that, you talk about the needs of the day are primary right now. That is the biggest focus. But is now a good time to buy a house? Interest rates are down. There's a lot of houses coming up on the market in the spring. What do you think?
Again, based off one situation, there are individuals that are in the midst of this pandemic and they say, all right, I can be offensive. There are some opportunities that we can embark upon. As we all know, interest rates did drop and it is extremely low. And so if you do have the ability to really get qualified through the bank, this will be a good time. This will be a really good time. I don't know how comfortable you'll be surveying the house, traveling to another location and looking at the specifics. But in the interim, this is definitely a good window to make, be offensive, purchase a home because of the low interest rates, especially have good credit. So if you have good credit, you have enough discretionary dollars to be able to potentially apply towards a down payment. This will be a great time to leverage the interest rates we're in so you can ultimately lower the potential mortgage you'll have on a month-to-month basis.
And everybody wants that. Everybody wants a lower mortgage.
That's exactly right.
Right. Now, let's see. Is it, and then this goes back kind of what we were talking about paying off debt. Is it better right now, though, to pay down your debt or to save more cash given the current circumstances that we're facing right now?
That's a really good question. Considering the type of debt that you have. So it has been released and it's public information on the different financial institutions, different credit card companies that are giving grace on payments in which they were eliminating any late fees, freezing interest. So again, even if you have enough saved up in savings, I would still reach out, be proactive, get a better understanding of how much grace you have within those credit cards or within those potential liabilities. But I think as long as we can not disrupt the ability to have cash on hand, either on a week-to-week basis, on a month-to-month basis, it is great to ensure that anything that could take money out of your pocket, which is a liability, but also being prepared to have cash at hand, because what we're dealing with today is if you have enough cash at hand to deal with the necessities of the day, if your income is shut off or not. And that's really what companies are dealing with, right? Their ability to generate income has been eliminated. So their employees are suffering, and that's why they're having to furlough pay or potentially lay them off. So I think as individuals, it is very important to ensure you create that fund, that bucket. They say 3 to 6 months of bill paying ability. We like to say 6 months, right? Let's get that dollar amount saved up. It's okay if you don't have 6 now, but you can definitely get there. But I think once you identify the threshold at which it takes for you to live on a month basis and you have that saved up in cash, I think that's a comfortable amount. And so again, considering today's time frame, the best thing is really to, I would say, keep set money aside for another rainy day.
So on more about savings, somebody asks, this situation has made me more aware of the need to have a very robust savings account. How can I start saving even if my budget is tight? And also, what is a reasonable goal for a savings account?
That's a really good question. I think so. I have to go to this equation, and it's a bit. It seems shrewd, but it's numbers, right? And so you either got to make more money or spend less, right? So if we're looking to create more discretionary dollars, so we can set it aside to make sure that we don't touch it, we're going to have to address that, right? We really need to define less for our dollars, right? There's too many dollars that are defined to do something else. And so let's prioritize on what it takes for us to truly live that allows us to be able to save for the future. In today's time frame, I would not jump straight to 6 months, right? So if you're looking to establish a robust savings, I would put together a goal that which you can accomplish in 1 month, right? Within the next 30 days, how much can I save? And that will again really create the inertia around positive. We'll just say positive actions that you're contributing, because saving money really sometimes it doesn't feel good, right? It seems like you're eliminating your ability to be able to shop or do something fun, but it's really creating your ability to do that when times are uncertain. Also, whenever things are certain, right, on what you're looking to get accomplished. So I would break down your savings goal within a 30-day time period, because what we've seen is that really a majority of financial savings goals over the course of a 12-month period, a majority of them fail because it takes 12 months to celebrate. Usually you break it down all the way out through the year. You say, all right, I want to save $1,000, $5,000, $10,000, 25. And if you don't stay within your goal come March, it's easy to say, well, I got 9 months left, right? I have 8 months left. And then next thing you know, it's October and you save, 30% of that goal. And so I would take it one chunk at a time, identify what you want to save on a annual basis, but break it down to the month so it doesn't take too long to celebrate. So each month you can go ahead and continue to build those savings to the point to where it gets to where you want it to be. And I think 6 months could be an ideal goal. Sometimes it may take 18 months to get that in place. That's okay. As long as you know what the number is, and as long as you have a way in which you're going to get there on a step-by-step basis, it'll be better off for you and your household.
That is so true. Saving does not feel good, even in the best of times. Like when you're making money, when we are not in the middle of a pandemic, saving is still hard. And I think everybody experiences that. I know that I'm like, well, I would so much rather take, this check and go shopping or go out and eat and things like that. But you're right. It does start. Cool. And I love that of kind of looking at the year ahead, but saying, okay, well, this is what I need to do in January. This is what I need to do in February. And that seems a little bit more manageable.
Right. That's exactly right. And what we've seen is that a majority of savings really across the country of all Americans typically happen when it's automatic. Right. And so even if we look at the ways in which a majority of Americans are employed, they typically have some type of 401k or vehicle for the long term. Whenever we have really questions one-on-one with clients or we're speaking to a group, we do ask the question, what have you been able to save on a consistent basis? And what's the largest amount and where is that money? They typically say their 401k. And when we ask, how did that money get there? It's because, well, they take it out of my check before I can touch it. And so we can create a way in which we can automate your savings, right? To where it takes the emotion out of it before you receive your dollars. That's a really good way in which you could go about doing it. We've also recommended to clients that identify a financial institution to where you don't have a relationship, open up an account there, but make sure you don't get a debit card. If they may give you one anyway, set it aside. And the only time in which you pull money out of that account, you have to drive up to the bank, right? And walk inside that institution. So some of the same barriers that's placed with the long-term products that they may have through their employer, right? Because to be able to request the money, you got to fill out paperwork or you have to call someone. And so if we can create some type of physical or mental barrier that pushes you to say, all right, do I really need this money? That usually helps ensure that we can increase that savings over a good time frame.
That's a good point. Make it harder to go get, because you got to be real motivated to go and drive to the bank and go in and do it.
That's right.
A lot of questions that we're getting in the comments are both about the different types of people who will receive stimulus checks and also about people who owe child support. Do they need to go ahead and pay that? will the stimulus go to them? There's a lot of people who are asking this, and I don't have any of those answers. So maybe you do.
Yeah, so the information is definitely changing on a day-to-day basis, specifically for those who owe child payments. You definitely want to address that at some point. If the stimulus has triggered your ability to say, I need to, address this liability, then so be it. There has been information that's been shared on that they may not receive their stimulus if they do owe child payment. I've heard even from an accountant actually as recent as yesterday that is not the case. So there's a lot of ambiguity there. We have yet, even here at IMC, we have yet to get clarity on it. But again, I think that obligation itself, you should definitely address that. And then hopefully once the stimulus arrives, if you are part of that group, you apply it in the most respectable manner.
So it seems like it seems like it's fair to say that that this is a rumor that the people who owe child support will not be getting those checks, that is not a confirmed fact.
We haven't confirmed it on our end, and it again, it could be the case. I just haven't seen anything that confirms that just yet.
And what about people on disability?
So disability is a bit tricky because it was just announced. It may have been as early as today that if you are on Social Security, they were first recommending that you would need to file your taxes to be able to receive the stimulus. And it was just announced that that is no longer the case. So there's information that's really changing real time. I think the biggest thing is just stay up to date on the requirements to be able to qualify for the stimulus. For those that are disabled, we'll have to circle back and look to see if there's anything that they may need to fill out specifically outside of their taxes, right? Because this is more so assuming that you have not done your 2018 or 2019 taxes. If you've done your 2018 and 2019 taxes, you should be good to go, especially if you have you receive those dollars through direct deposit because you have your account and routing number on there. So they're going to use those two returns to guide the not only the amount of the stimulus, but as well where to place those dollars, especially, and again, if you have direct deposit, you'll probably be the quickest to receive your money.
Interesting. Another thing, somebody actually asked me directly on Twitter, they said, how long until expected relief to laid off employees? I have 2 children in the service industry and both of them filed for unemployment last week.
Wow. Yeah. So great question. That my heart is really more so on those that lost income. Again, I know some of the biggest shifts for some of our Birmingham friends more so is just working from the house. But there is a group that is a part of our community that we really need to wrap our arms around it. And it's those that, may work at restaurants, those that are hourly employees that no longer has income that may have had to shift to unemployment. I've heard from a few different representatives within the government that they are looking at another phase of a stimulus that may be another check. I think as of right now, I would tap into all resources. If you are here in Birmingham, I know part of the initiatives with the city of Birmingham through the Be Him Strong initiative is that if you have lost a job, they are looking for those individuals and helping place them with jobs in which they can replace those hourly employees. And so this big initiative, I believe, is through Josh Carpenter's department. And so definitely reach out there. But I think any further stimulus checks that may come, again, we have to wait until that policy is voted upon. But I know it's in conversation because at the end of the day, the trickle down effect, this pandemic has really highlighted how much of our community has not really been economically supported, either in pay. Even our teachers and nurses, we definitely need to up their pay. They are the true heroes right now.
Yes.
And then as well, a majority of our hourly employees. And so please file for anything in which you can definitely qualify for, and just keep your ears and antennas up for new information that comes. But definitely in the meantime, if your income has been disrupted, really, really get creative and identify which expenses you need to keep. Reach out to the utilities or the bills and see if you can get some grace since your income has been disrupted. And then again, I think probably the hardest part for this group is for anyone, for any individual, really to be vulnerable, right? Be vulnerable and share the pains and the needs that you have and allow the community to really wrap its arms around you. And so If there's a need, one of the things that I've enjoyed the most. No, nothing about this pandemic is really enjoyable. But
Right.
if we do, trying to find light in the midst of this, it's the way in which the community has responded to the needs of others, and so that's been very, very enlightening.
You're so right. And I think it's important to add that, like you say, there's people who are struggling so much and so much more than most of us can imagine. But yet,
Mm,
we still have so many people giving and helping each other and donating to local businesses or local restaurants who are doing takeout only. It's like, I might have a
right.
pantry full of groceries, but I need to support this local business. And
That's right.
I think that is that's inspiring. And it seems like we all need that right now. We all need a little glimmer of hope. And money talks often are not comfortable for people.
Yeah.
They
Yeah.
avoid them like the plague. I am one of those people. So we appreciate it so much, Isaac, for you coming on, making this a little bit more understandable and kind of boiling it down for a lot of us who are not financial experts or anything like that. So we really hope that you'll come back and talk with us and answer more questions. I think that's all the time we have today. We got to get to a press conference coming up here. But Isaac, thank you so much again. And for the rest of y'all, if you have any more questions for Isaac, please comment them in this thread here. We will get them to him either to answer you directly or in an upcoming video. And if you want to find Isaac, he owns the IMC Financial Consulting based in Birmingham, and he is very accessible. So again, thank you, Isaac, so much. And for the rest of y'all, we will see you tomorrow.